98 made this shit.
All praises. We're gonna go on mute, and now you can. Right here,
We send it to the main, and you gotta get on that one.
Yeah, we're just gonna let it feel a little bit. And it's on record, so we'll make sure to let a few people join, and I'll just give it like 5 minutes. Shalom, Sistaria. Shalom, Captain. I think he's with you guys.
That's perfect. We can see your screen.
Good. We'll bring it up here. Let me get the chat on the side ready. All right, come. We're gonna go into this. Let's see, we'll start at the top. It's called Young Lion, Volume 1. And first, we just had a few precepts in the beginning, but before we go into all this, we're just gonna pray it in, and then get started. We're gonna read about young Yahushua, young David, young Daniel. Before we do that, we're gonna pray it in real quick.
Call Halayim Abba, now Yahweh, give all praises to the Most High, and say just thank you for this congregation and family that has been given to us, and the family that came with us to feed the sheep on this Shabbat, and the new brothers that we met, and the new, hopefully, potential brothers we may have met in the street that we gave those flyers to. Hopefully they look into that and interest them enough to want to find out more about it and find out who they are and come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. And that we continue to do so in your name, and that we just continue feeding the sheep, and that this is what these videos are for, and that we congregate on these Zooms and these YouTube lives, and we use whatever tools that were given to us to just come together and look over things like this and just read your word and righteously divide the scripts together. And all praises on that.
Amen. They want to give all praises, blessing, we'll bring it out in the right way. They give us the spirit, and that it reaches someone that isn't maybe too deep into this, that you put on the spirit and keeping your commands. Amen. Amen. All right, so let's start with
Amen.
So we're gonna start in Proverbs 22:6. Then you can go ahead and get that. This is a verse that, basically all of Israel know, but we're still gonna go over it because it's the whole basis of the study we're bringing out, and it's a real important script right here. So go ahead and bring this out.
Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
So I have a precept for this, for what happens when that doesn't happen. And let me go ahead and get that for you. Train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. So when we come into this, we see a lot of old Israel. We see young Israel. We go to these feast days. And, when we first came into this, also when we were our Vallejo Ox, and when we went out there, we met a lot of older Ox that talked about how growing up they didn't have this truth and all that. And then we hear about how their children, we see them being born into it. So we just hope that, this really touches them, and they growing it up in this truth is just the best thing that you could have right now, especially in the days that we're in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this precept. Let me find it real quick. I have a few that are in Psalms. Here, go ahead and bring us Ecclesiastes 6 and 18.
But Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 18. My son, gather instruction from thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine old age.
I believe we brought this out on Thawra Thursday too, and that's what made me get this verse. Because this has to do with what we're talking about. Gather instruction from thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine old age. So, everything that a child soaks stuff up, like a sponge, when they're very young and in their youth still. The Bible uses youth a lot. When I looked it up, I think it's like 70 times in the KJV, 69 results for youth in the Bible. And so it's very important that because that's the new generation. All it takes is like one generation for this to be taken from us. And that's why I want to go into that book real quick, just to read a little bit in the beginning. Let me see real quick. It's called The Education for Extinction. Our dad showed us this, and we went to the chapter about the classroom, because this says, gather instruction from thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine old age. And, a wise old man, in this, coming into this truth when they're young. We don't know how much time we have on this earth, but you want to spend all that time keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, because that's the whole duty of man. So you want to train your children up in that, so that they'll be wise, most high willing when the time comes. So we're going to start with this real quick. Go ahead and first let me re-say the name of the book. It's called The Education for Extinction by David Wallace Adams. And we're just only going to read a little bit of this, but just the beginning where it talks about the classroom, on how they came over here and they started doing the Native American children. They started with the children, because that if you want to, change the people and everything, you got to change the children and take, everything that they were doing, even though they have went off already by then. That's why the Most High punished them. They were training up our children in the way that they should not go. So, that's why this book is important. So we're going to start right now and just go ahead and read a little bit. I'm going to tell you to stop. So.
Chapter 5, titled Classroom, Removing Children from Their Native Communities, Stripping Away the External Trappings of Their Cultural Identities, and entertaining them into the routine and discipline.
So that's the first thing in there that it says, is removing children from their native communities.
Stripping away the external trappings of their cultural identities.
Stripping everything from them, and that's all it takes is one generation. I have more precepts on that too, but we'll get into those. But that's all it takes, was one generation of children, stripping them from everything that they have, and then teaching them the ways of the white man when he came over here, and just pushing that all on them. And like Sis Prior said, and we see them targeting the youth with all kind of wickedness. And that's exactly what this book is talking about, on how they target the youth, because they're just children, that all they know is everything is what they're taught, growing up. It's harder to teach an old man something that he has been against his whole life than a child that doesn't really know anything about what's being done. That's why it says to train up a child in the way he should go. So go ahead and keep going a little more.
The battle for children's hearts, minds, and souls cannot be won simply with barber shears and marching drills. Indians were to be prepared for citizenship.
So that says that the battle for their heart and mind and soul. So the battle for.
So as we got into this society, we took on all the societal ways. I started coaching basketball. We never got connected with our roots. We followed whatever was going on, high school sports, winning championships and things like that. And now We understand we have a heritage to return, a law to learn. Call her law.
These little native children, what couldn't just be one with just shears, cutting their hair off, and what else does it say?
Giving them marching drills,
Giving them marching drills, the way of not of us, not our ways. They were cutting their hair and just trying to force them to fit into. It says this citizen to get ready for citizenship, which is just the American way, and that they pushed, made them cut their hair, wear suits and ties and all that, and they just pushed that on them. So when they grow up, the Bible says, train up a way and he will not depart from it. They wanted them to come like this so they won't depart from that, from the ways that they're taught of the heathen. So go ahead and keep going.
And if they were to adopt the values, sentiments of American civilization, then they must be instructed to achieve these ends for this reason.
Here, come a little closer. A little bit.
While new recruits were adjusting to institutional life, they were also being introduced to the world of the classroom, and with it, the curriculum of the white man's civilization.
That's still today. It's being introduced to the classroom from like 5 years old. I remember going to preschool of what is that, 4 years old. So that's still a little baby. So keep reading it. How it read where you go back a little bit more.
Adjusting to life, they were also being introduced to the world of the classroom, and with it, the curriculum of the white man's civilization.
So that's to go with the verse that we brought out first, to train up a child. They're being introduced to the classroom. It says of the white man, the American civilization, and that, forcing them to conform to the ways. It was force, and all they had to do was force the first few generations, and then those generations will grow up raising their own kids, doing it for them, because they lost their ways. So that's why I want to get this verse real quick. It's Nehemiah 13:23-24. Go ahead and bring this out, Izzy, because this has to go with what they're talking about the children. So go
Verse
ahead.
23. In those days also Saul, Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab.
So they're marrying wives of different nations. So, they're having kids with these wives, and let's see what happened to those children.
And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people.
So that right there is saying how they took these wives of other nations, and the wife is usually the one that is around the baby the most, the caregiver of the children, and these babies are so young. Everything they were learning from their mothers of these other nations, so they couldn't even speak the Jews' language. They couldn't speak what language our people were speaking. But it says according to the language of each people of the nations that they were from. So all it took was one generation for them to just completely forget what language they spoke. And now look at us now. We think like the Mexicans think they speak that we speak Spanish, but even then, that wasn't what we were speaking either. Now we're speaking English. So that's a whole 2-3 languages now that have been changed since our original language. And the Spaniards came over here, forced Spanish on us. And at my new job, we have a lot of Spanish speakers, and they take pride in speaking Spanish when that's not even our original language. And I don't know any Spanish, but my mom does, and that's just one generation right there. So go ahead and get in powerful information. Captain Salak Awada. And let's go ahead and move on though, because we have a pretty long.
There's a big paragraph that I think you could touch on right here.
Yeah, go ahead and go into that.
That still on what you're talking about. It says in the early years, when students were taken directly from the camp or village and spoke no English, they entered the classroom with feelings that ran from hopeful expectation suspicious hostility.
So they're saying that those kids spoke no English, they're being forced English, and that they had, what does it say they had? They had hopeful expectations to forced hostility. So just meaning that they suspicious hostility. So they had hopeful expectations, meaning that, they were kind of hopeful, hoping maybe this isn't so bad or whatever coming into the classroom, but then they are met with suspicious hostility. So that, and by a language that they didn't even know, which is in the Bible, that a nation from afar, and they would speak a language you wouldn't even know. And yeah, that goes with what we're saying up here, that, just one generation like that, they lost their language. That's already big right there. And, you look at all these young, every time we have a congregation or something, there's always little babies running around in fringes. And, they're being raised in this, but maybe their parents weren't. So, we got to keep it going. And so, maybe those children grow up, they have kids, and now it's a third generation Israelite, fourth generation, fifth generation, and keep going back and back. And that's how we keep it going. So, we'll start with this Matthew 18, though, because we need to start moving down. And I want you to go ahead and start at this verse 1.
Verse 1, at the same time came the disciples unto Yahushua, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily.
So first, at the same time came the disciples unto Yahushua. So they were asking him a question, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And so Yahushua called a little child unto them and set them in the midst of them. So let's see if they understand what Yahushua is doing when he brings this child in. So go ahead and read verse 3.
Verse 3, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven.
So he's not saying to become a literal child. He's saying to become as little children, meaning that you have to learn all over again. When we came into this truth, and I remember when it was our dad that brought this to us, telling us that we're Israelites. I didn't even know what an Israelite was. I didn't know what that meant. And so if I didn't know what it meant, it didn't even matter. I didn't know any of that. It didn't make any sense to me. And it wasn't until he showed us what it means to be an Israelite. So that's why when we're out there feeding the sheep, and like Sis Paria says, restoring what was lost, all praises. Yeah, all praises, Khan. We're out there feeding the sheep. We're trying to restore what was lost. That's why we have to be like a childlike spirit, like that lady out there when we were bringing it out. She had a childlike spirit, but not in the way that the Most High is asking for. She had one in a way of like a child throwing a temper tantrum, and just trying to block out, like when a little kid gets mad because they don't get what they want, and they start they cover their ears, they start being loud, and that's exactly what she was doing. Need to be in a righteous childlike spirit. Become as little children and learn again. And we have to understand that our people out there on the streets, they weren't taught this. So when I see that stuff, it's never surprising to me. It's just you pray that they'll come to listen to it, because usually when like that one at the end that he knew our West from Las Vegas, he was just sitting there listening to it and soaking it up, because he became as a little child, and just relearning things, and he understood everything he said because he listened. All you have to do is listen, and then it starts to make sense. But people don't want to listen. They hear one thing about maybe the white man or something, and then they instantly want to go against it because they didn't listen to what it says. And the people claim they love God and they believe in the Bible, but then as soon as they hear the Bible, what the Bible really has to say, they start they start talking about us. I remember that guy that Captain was trying to get to listen and learn. The first guy that came over there that was like kind of drunk outside walking around, and when he left, he said, F Captain. Not you got. He was specifically pointed at Captain. He said, everyone on the other side, I'm fine with you guys, but F that guy, F the one talking on the mic. And he was talking about Captain. But all Captain was doing was trying to help him.
He was mad because he was giving them the truth.
He was mad because he's giving him the truth, and also because he was most likely just drunk out there, and that's why you're not supposed to be out there drunk, just walking around the streets in the little congregation of the dead. And he knew he was an Israelite, is what he said, but it doesn't matter. All our forefathers and everyone in the Bible knew they were Israelites. They still went off, and we still got cursed for it. So just knowing you're an Israelite is important, but it's something that comes with being an Israelite, and that's keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. Otherwise, we'll stay cursed. So let's continue reading. Start at verse 1 again.
Verse 1. At the same time came the disciples unto Yahushua, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua called a little children unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Verse 4. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven.
So we gotta humble ourselves. A lot of people on the street don't want to humble themselves and just listen. I didn't hear what Captain and I think it was Ak West was telling him in the car, but it seemed to look like he had tears coming out of his eyes. So that seems humble to me. But now that's not all. Now you have to keep the laws and statutes and commandments. So hopefully, we give him a flyer or something, or he reaches out, or he finds out on his own or something. I can only pray for him. But continue reading verse 5.
Verse 5. And whoso shall receive one such little child, in my name receiveth me.
Keep going.
Verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea.
So that is saying right there, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck. So it'd be better for you to die drowning at the bottom of the ocean or the bottom of the sea than to offend one of these little ones which believe in the Most High. And you could also look at that parabolically, being that since we're to become as little children learning this, offending someone that humbles themselves to come down, they humble themselves to become as a little child, like it says in the Bible, offending them. You can look at that. They may be a grown adult, but it would be better for you to be hanged by your neck by a millstone and drown at the bottom of the sea. And not just hearers of the word, but doers of the word. Exactly. So that's what we're trying to tell that guy out there, that you may know you're an Israelite. A lot of people we see come by say they're Israelites now, and but they're not keeping no commandments, and that's what he got mad about when Captain pointed that he had no fringes on, and he was talking about what he did yesterday, which doesn't matter. What you're doing right now, you don't have no fringes on. It was obvious you weren't keeping the laws. That's the whole point of fringes, is to look at them, to remind yourself to keep the laws. And then also when you're out here and you see someone with fringes on, you know that that's another Israelite, that you can approach them. But before we get into this, this is going to be a lot of reading right here about young Yahushua, and we know about this one, but we're just going to go through it and look at him as his youth. But before we do that, then we get to Isaiah 28:9 that Captain put in the chat.
Book of Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 9, and it reads, Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
So that meaning like this: weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast, that's like a little baby that's still, being breastfed. So it's start from the beginning again.
Verse 9, whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
So whom shall he teach knowledge and make understand doctrine is those that become like a little child that's still being breastfed. You know, a little baby that has, when a baby's born, it doesn't know anything. That's why, so I can, we have someone new in the chat too. Shalom, Michael. Michael, we're just going over this right now. It's about, it's called Young Lions, which is just about the young in the youth in the Bible. And we're gonna go over Young Yahushua right now, and just checking the chat. Anything that wants to be posted in the chat, we'll make sure to get those verses. But we're gonna continue just saying Shalom.
Shalom.
Mike from Sister Bayam, Brother Barak.
Hey, Shalom, King. Good to see you in here. Enjoy the class. Young Banyam bringing it out.
Grab it real quick. Yeah, I'll continue. All right, we're gonna start with this Young Yahushua. This is Luke 2:41 through 52. The rest of this class is gonna be we're gonna just read a lot about the young prophets, a young Yahushua in the Bible, and yeah, we got a good amount, so we're gonna go ahead and get to that. We're gonna
That verse.
Yeah,
42 or 41.
41. I have it all right here. So go ahead and start with verse 41.
This is book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 41. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast.
So they gave us his age. So Yahushua is only 12 years old right here. He's 4 years younger than Izzy right here. So, you know, he's the same age. How old is he? Like 10, 11?
11. So
he's barely older than Z, our
older.
little sister. He's only 1 year older. So let's see what he does right here. Go ahead.
43. And when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Yahushua tarried behind in Jerusalem.
So let's get what that tarried means. I'm pretty sure that means that he stayed behind, but let's make sure we have the exact definition. I got it right here. So tarried means to stay longer than intended or delay leaving a place. So his parents left, and when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Yahushua tarried behind. So he stayed behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. So his parents didn't know. He didn't tell them, you know, today, you know, we may get in trouble for that. But young Yahushua, you know, he was definitely still honoring his parents. So we're going to continue reading, but he stayed behind in Jerusalem. So his parents knew not of it. So we're going to continue. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey. So they knew not of it. But when they found out, you know, they're not going to know, you know, going the whole way back, they're not just going to not notice that he's not with them. So, but they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey. So they thought that, you know, he was around them somewhere, you know, being in company. They went a whole day's journey. I don't know if they were traveling on foot or if they were maybe riding an animal or something, but they went a whole day's journey without him. And they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintance. So then they started looking for him, and it's been a whole day. So that's a long time. They're a day away from young, only 12 years old Yahushua, but let's see what he's doing. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem seeking him. So they had to go, I assume, a day back. They had to walk a whole day back for him because they have already went a day's journey. And it came to pass that after 3 days, so yeah, it's been 3 days now. Good evening, I'm new here. Barak invited me. Praise be to the Most High. Khan, all praises.
All praises.
Yeah, just go ahead and it's all good. Just listen through. We're just going to read through these stories in the Bible. And if you have any questions or any precepts you may want to put in the chat, we'll go ahead and get to those. But we're going to go ahead and continue, and praise be to the Most High. Khan, all praise to the Most High.
All praise.
And when they found him not, they turned back into Jerusalem seeking him. And it came to pass that after 3 days, so it's been 3 days, they have not had their young, only 12 years old Yahushua. They found him in the temple. So young Yahushua, he didn't walk a day with them and then a day back. So this whole 3 days, he's been in Jerusalem in the temple. sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. So he was soaking things up and learning. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So everyone in that temple they were astonished by young Yahushua, only 12 years old, at how good his understanding was and the answers that he was giving. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. So, they found him and they told him, like, why didn't you say anything? They said that they were sorrowing. So they were looking for him. And go ahead and read 49.
49. And he said unto them,
So see, how was I speaking?
How is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my father's business?
So he said that to his parents, and I've said this, I think, believe to our dad already too, that that when I first read this, I was like, wow, he talked to his parents like that. But that's Yahushua, and he's gonna honor his parents. So it was just a little surprising, especially hearing that from only someone that's 12 years old. How is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my father's parents? And even it's not just us who didn't understand it. It says, and they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. Even the parents didn't understand it. So, Yahushua was on a different level, even at 12 years old. It said even his parents, and they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. They didn't understand what they meant when he said, I was about my father's business. And he went down with them and came, they're still his parents. So, he went with them home. And, he has to obey and honor his parents, and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. So she remembered everything that he was saying. She was learning from him too with that. She said that they didn't understand what he said. And Yahushua increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. There was no YouTube that Yahushua can post videos on there talking about the word. So it had to be in person. So they were in the temple and they were astonished at his understanding and answers. It says, seeing someone like that at such a young age, it was like, it says they were astonished. They were like amazed by that.
Enjoy your day. We'll be bringing this Bible out, so if you want to learn anything, we'll show you that saith the Lord. This little guy got a scripture for you. You ready? Go ahead.
Romans chapter 10, verse 1.
Bring it out.
Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel.
For who?
Israel. Is that they might be saved. For I bear them report that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge.
Beautiful. He read that God is talking to Israel.
So, Khan, that's just that's about 10 verses on young Yahushua. We can go into that more, but that's the main one that a lot of Israel knows. And we want to just keep it moving to young Daniel, which we bring this out a lot. But we're going to read Susanna chapter 1 all the way from 45 to 64 and just look into these verses on what's being said and just get a good interpretation of them. So go ahead and start at 45.
Verse 45. Therefore, when she was led to be put to death.
So this is talking about Susanna right here.
The Lord raised up the Holy Spirit of a young youth whose name was Daniel.
So a young youth. We don't know. They don't give the age like they did with Yahushua, but a young youth. So he, that's two things. It's not just a youth Daniel. It says a young youth. So, we're not too sure how old he really was. Could have been 9 years old, 10 years old. Could have still been a single digit number. We have no idea. But this is young Daniel. So we're going to continue. And what did he do right here?
Who cried with a loud voice, I am clear from the blood of this woman.
So he's saying he's clear. This woman's blood is not on his hands. He's going to give the reason why, though. So I'm going to let you read a little bit.
Then all the people turned them toward him and said, what mean these words that thou hast spoken? So he, standing in the midst of them, said, are ye such fools, ye sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth ye have condemned a daughter of Israel?
So this is a young child talking to Israel right now, talking to all the elders, everyone there, telling them, calling them, are you guys fools, ye sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth ye have condemned a daughter of Israel? So they were condemning Susanna, and they had no knowledge of the truth. So he's calling them fools. Even a little child was able to point that out. So continue.
Verse 49. Return again to the place of judgment, for they have borne false witness against her. Wherefore all the people turned again in haste. And the elders said unto him, Come sit down among us, and shew it us, seeing God hath given thee the honor of an elder.
So you have a little child, Daniel, now sitting with the elders, because the Most High had given him the honor of an elder. So they said, come and sit with us. There's a little kid sitting with the elders because he called everyone out, and they want to see, the spirit on this kid. So go ahead, 51.
Then said Daniel unto him, but put these two aside, one far from another, and I will examine them. So when they were put asunder one from another, he called one of them and said unto him, O thou that art waxen old in wickedness, now thy sins which thou hast committed aforetime are come to light.
So he called them out right there, put them aside. Nobody, I don't know why nobody did that, but he came in, the child, little Daniel, said, let's put them aside and hear the stories first with them separate, so they can't, make something up and lie together. They have to, their stories have to match up perfect. So continue.
For thou hast pronounced false judgment, and hast condemned the innocent, and hast let the guilty go free. Albeit this, the Lord saith, the innocent and righteous shalt thou not slay.
And they're talking about Susanna.
Verse 54. Now then, if thou hast seen her, tell me under what tree sawest thou them companioning together, who answered under a mastic tree.
So he's asking one of them, saying, okay, so what tree was she under? And so he's going to ask both of them. If they both give different answers, then that means that they're lying. It take a lot of you could say luck or whatever for them to both say it, but the Most High will is being done. So they're not going to say the same thing. The Most High is going to, he has his spirit on young Daniel for a reason. He's going to bring the truth to the light. So go ahead.
Verse 55, and Daniel said, very well, thou hast lied against thine own head, for even now the angel of God hath received the sentence of God to cut thee in two.
Continue.
So we put him aside and commanded to bring the other, and said unto him, O thou seed of Canaan.
So now he's calling someone out. So he put him aside, and this is one of the people that were lying on Susanna, and said, you're not even an Israelite, you're the seed of Canaan, and not of Judah. Beauty hath deceived thee, and lust hath perverted thine heart. So this is young Daniel calling out somebody hot in Israel, telling them, you're not even the seed of Judah, you're the seed of Canaan. Only the Most High can give you the spirit to be able to discern that. So he's letting them know, like, you're not even an Israelite. And we may have people out here preaching on the street that may not even be Israel, that could be leading our people away because they're not in the spirit. So we need to make sure that we stay in the spirit to bring our people back, because it's a broken people. So go ahead and continue. 57.
57. Thus have ye dealt with the daughters of Israel, and they for fear companied with you. But the daughter of Judah would not abide your wickedness. Verse 58. Now therefore, tell me, under what tree didst thou take them companion together? So like you're accompanying together. Who answered, under an home tree? Verse 59.
So they both said two different trees. So now Daniel knows that, they're lying now. So they're going to have to pay for what they tried to do to Susanna. Continue 59.
Khan, then said Daniel unto him, well, thou hast also lied against thine own head, for the angel of God waiteth with the sword to cut thee in two, that he may destroy you.
Now he said this to both of them now. So they're both going to get it. So go ahead and continue and see what happens.
Khan, verse 60. With that all the assembly cried out with a loud voice, and praised God, who saveth them that trust in him.
Khan, continue.
And they arose against the two elders, for Daniel had convicted them of false witness by their own mouth. And according to the law of Moses, they did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intended to do to their neighbor.
So what they tried to do to her is going to be done unto them. They did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intend to do to their neighbor, and they put them to death. So they tried to put Susanna to death because she wouldn't lie with them. And they're going to be put to death because they wanted to lie on her name. But she stayed true to the Most High and righteous and kept the commands. And even if it wasn't unto death, but the Most High wasn't going to allow for her to be put to death for something she did not do. So he put that spirit on a young Daniel to call that out. So go ahead. From that day,
For
Salakia, 63. No, 62. 62. So we're going to go ahead and finish this.
and according to the law of Moses, they did unto them in such sort as they maliciously intended to do to their neighbor, and they put them to death. Thus the innocent blood was saved the same day.
Khan.
Therefore,
And that goes back to what Daniel said in the beginning about, let me get it word for word. In the beginning, he said, young Daniel said, let me get it, who cry with a loud voice, I am clear from the blood of this woman. So that goes hand in hand with what just happened right here. The blood of the innocent. Let me get it word for word. I don't want to mess with the words up. Trust in him. Where is it at? Salakia. This, the innocent blood was saved the same day. So, he did exactly what he said. Continue.
verse 63. Therefore,
Chelseus.
Therefore, Chelseus and his wife praised God for their daughter, Susanna, with Joachim, her husband, and all the kindred, because there was no dishonesty found in her. From that day forth was Daniel had in great reputation in the sight of the people.
So from that day forth, so Daniel had a great reputation from a young child. It says from that day forth was Daniel in great reputation in the sight of the people. So they seen little Daniel walking around. Everybody give him a little salute because he was out here in the spirit saving people's lives. So they knew that the Most High put his spirit on him. So he had a great reputation from a young child. So listen, now we're going to move on to young David, which everybody knows that David, and not everybody, but Israel, you should know this young David story with David and Goliath, but we're going to read into it and just see everything that is brought out in here. Let me see, we have up until verse 54. So we're going to read from verse 33 to 54. And I had the book here, but I believe that I might have deleted on accident. Let me make sure. Before you start, I gotta say the book, but we're gonna start at 33. And Salaki, give me 1 second. Go ahead and start at 33 and just read up until I say stop.
Verse 33. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine, to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war.
So right there, it already says that he is but a youth, that thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth. So Saul didn't believe from the start that David would be able to. He had no faith that David, because he was just a youth. And he said that Goliath, he was a man of war from his youth. So he wasn't just a man of war, he was a man of war from his youth. He was trained this way. I think before, Dad, before you left, you were talking about the little kids that were trained as warriors from a child. Well, Goliath was right here, just from his youth. So he didn't, grow up, become an adult and then start training for war. He's been doing it since a child. So he was trained up in that way. So continue, 34.
And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock.
So he's saying right here, no, continue. I'll stop it after.
And I went out after him and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose.
So David is telling Saul, you think I can't take this man on, but I killed a lion and a bear. And it took a lamb out of the flock, and when I went after him, I smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. So a lion came, took a little lamb out of the flock, and he went and killed the lion and delivered the lamb out of his mouth. And when he rose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. So he caught the lion, and that's why also Israel should have beards too. He's calling his mane, we always say like a lion's mane or a beard or whatever, but he caught this lion by his beard and smote him. I believe it was when we were street preaching that I forgot who said it, but he was telling that his beard is like his lion's mane that the Most High gave him. But that was a little off topic, but we'll just continue. It was verse 35. But yeah, he's telling Saul that, you don't have any faith that I can take on this Philistine, but I killed a lion and a bear. So, this is just a man. And I have the Most High behind me. So continue reading verse 35.
Verse 35, and I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him.
Now it doesn't say, how old Daniel is, but it does say that he was a youth. So he was a youth telling this story. So he was, unless this happened last week, this lion and bear thing, he was even younger. So David was killing lions and bears from a youth, chasing them down too. It said that he didn't hop in a car to chase after this lion. He ran it down and took the sheep from his mouth. So continue.
On 36, thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God.
So this uncircumcised Philistine Goliath is going to end up just like this lion and bear, because he defied the armies of the living God. You have to have faith the Most High is going to deliver. And it seemed that Saul had none, because he was telling David, you're just, a young youth. This guy is a grown man, and he's a man of war from his youth. So David had to let him know that, I killed lions, I've killed bears, and this guy is going to be no different from that. So go ahead and continue. 37.
And Saul said unto David, go and the Lord be with thee. Verse 38. And Saul armed David with his armor.
Start at 37, the beginning of it, not the end. We didn't get the beginning.
David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go in the Lord be with thee.
So at first Saul was like, I'm not sure sending a youth out there to go against this man of war from his youth to fight, because when they originally came, they said they were basically sending Goliath out there. If Goliath wins, Israel, you become our servants. If you win, we'll be yours. So nobody wanted to step up, but here comes David. He stepped up, and Saul didn't believe in him at first, but then David had to let him know what he's, the things that he's done. And now Saul's saying, So like now, and Saul said unto David, "Go, and the Lord be with thee." So now Saul's got a little faith in David now, and and the Lord be with thee. So now he's knowing that, like, keep your faith in the Lord, and He'll deliver you. He can deliver you out of the hand of a lion and a bear. So continue.
On
At 38.
38, and Saul armed David with his armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also, he armed him with a coat of mail.
So like chain mail. He armored him up and gave him a coat of chain mail. So like a knight would wear. It like locks up. We wear a chain mail glove at my job when we're cutting things, and a knife. You would have to stab really hard to go through that. So he's sent him out there with some armor on to go against Goliath. And go ahead and 39.
39, and David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. 40, and he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine.
And so he has David over here, he, instead of the sword, he takes his sling and a few rocks. And I don't know if you guys have seen videos of the old slings that they used back then, but those are, you can shoot a rock out of that like a bullet. At the end of the day, Goliath is still just a man. A rock to the head is enough to knock you out. And, David knew that, so he wasn't scared at all. And continue 41.
41. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David. And the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance.
So pause, let's get what disdained means. So let's get what he thought of David when he first seen him. Disdain means consider to be unworthy of one's consideration. So he was basically like, what is this? You sent the kid out here to fight me for your nation. And but he didn't know that this youth had the Most High behind him. So when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he is but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. So continue.
42.
43.
And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods.
So this Philistine is like offended pretty much by David coming out there. He thinks there's no way he loses this.
You know what that sound like to me? That Proverbs 16 and 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Call her Lord. Continue.
But continue.
And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field.
So you hear that? David is not scared of him at all. And he actually tells him that I'll give thy flesh into the fowls of the air, into the beasts of the field. So these animals are going to be eating off of your dead body. It's pretty much what he said to him. So, young David, he wasn't playing with his Philistines. So go ahead, 45.
And said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied.
So he comes with a sword, a spear, and with a shield. But David comes with the name of the Lord of hosts. So that sword, that spear, all those weapons, that shield is nothing. It's nothing to the Most High. And, the Most High is going to prove that right here in these next few verses.
Yeah, that's a tight shirt. That would be a beautiful shirt. I would love to have a shirt that says, I will feed your flesh to the wild beasts and the fowls of the air. I would rock a shirt that said, because only brothers in the spirit would know what that means. That'd be a hard shirt.
That's why I wanted to go over this, because we all may know the story of David and Goliath, but to read through it and see the conversation and everything that they had, I never seen that verse to where he said that, or I just forgot about it. So it's just to remind people how David was, even from a young youth.
That spirit, that spirit was hard. And you know what? You guys been with us before when we were in Oak Park and they gang banged on us, and the hardest one was a little dude. Remember? Remember the little? I think it's on one of the Successes Journey videos. The little blood banged on us hecka hard, but then when I looked at him, he, the spirit of Yahweh put some fear on the boy. But from Jump Street, he banged on us, and it was like only 13 years old. We should bang on it. Yeah, if you could bang for the Most High, because, and convert them over to be soldiers for Yahweh, that's why we like to go out to the hood and really make it real to these folks. But I yield, Go ahead.
Yeah, we should get a shirt with that made on it, too. I like that verse, too. But we're going to go to, what were we at, 45? No. It's 46. So continue, 46.
This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee.
So not only is he telling him that, the animals are going to feed on your body, but he's going to he's telling him too. He's telling him while he's still alive, this is what I'm going to do to you, because, the Most High is on my side. So he's saying, I'm going to take thine head from thee, and I'll give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that shall the earth may know that there is a God in Israel.
Salakia. The spirit, I want to remember one thing. I want the whole family to remember this. What did the Most High say about David's heart?
He had a heart like Yahweh said.
Man, pull the verse verbatim, because look at how he's talking. And the scriptures say he didn't sin except for concerning Bathsheba. So Malak Dawadah is on point with the Most High with the way he's talking. And I yield. But if you can pull that scripture, though, where the Most High says, Daniel Allah Babakasha, pull that real quick. And I'll yield. This is just such an exciting lesson. I love this stuff. So pull that and I yield. Shalom.
It's where it says David had a heart like Yahweh. But while he gets that, he's telling, this is the second time he's telling him now that your body's going to be fed on by the fowl of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. So everybody watching and all these animals that are going to be eating on your body are going to know that there's a God. And headless body too. He said, I'm going to take your head off, pretty much. So go ahead and get that verse. And he's telling him this while Goliath was trying to, disrespect him and tell him, you're not even worthy of fighting me. So we're going to get that verse real quick, and then we'll go ahead and continue. You can't find it all over. One second. Maybe? Yeah. Do you know what book it's in? David, as far as that book isn't playing no game. Captain. Yeah, a lot of this isn't read when people read this part of David and Goliath. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to their king. I think it's this verse right here, Acts 13:22. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after mine own heart, which shall fulfill all my will. So I believe that's the verse right there, right? Hallelujah. And that is, you can continue reading, and that's Acts 13:22. So let's get 47 now.
47. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands.
So David's speaking surely, like he has no doubt that this is gonna happen. He's telling him what's gonna happen. He's basically prophesying what's gonna happen to him right now.
On it. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth.
So the stone went right into his forehead, like a target, and it said it sunk into his forehead. I don't know if that means that like it shot in, it was stuck in his. I believe that means that like it was stuck in his forehead like a bullet, you know. And he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine and took his sword. So David didn't have a sword on him to cut his head. He wasn't going to cut his head off with a slingshot. So he took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. So he cut his head off with his own sword. Basically, like that could even be parabolic for like he did it to himself, you know. But well, we start 52 through 54. Let's get these last 3 verses.
And the men of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until thou come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way to Sharon, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent.
So he took the head all the way back to Jerusalem. You know, he kept that basically like, you know, a trophy of what the Most High allowed him to do. And that's it for David right there. Maybe if we do a part 2 on this, we can find more on young David if there is in there, and continue that. But I want to get this young Samuel, and I believe this is the last one we're going to be getting into. Come on, yeah, we did that already. Let me get rid of this real quick. This is what we read in the beginning. And yeah, Captain, he had for sure faith. Yeah, he had faith from the beginning. He didn't have a doubt at all what was going to happen. So we have 2 things on young Samuel. 1 Samuel 3, chapter 9. So Hannah rose up, Hannah is Samuel's mother, rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli, the priest, sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord, and she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore, because he had said the Most High had sewed her womb up, so she couldn't have any kids. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. So that's a vow she made on Samuel. You know, she was asking for a son, and told the Lord, you know, if you give me a son, all the days of his life will be for you. And also no razor should come upon his head. So that's a vow she made with him, with the Most High. And so the Most High does end up giving her a son. I'm going to read about it right now. 1 Samuel 3:3, go ahead and read from verse 3.
And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision.
So this being called Young Lions, this says the child Samuel. So this paragraph, everything that he's done, he's a child right here. And it said that he ministered unto the Lord before Eli. And the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. So this is a young child Samuel here. So continue verse 2.
When it came to pass at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I.
This is a young child Samuel here that the Lord is calling for. And continue. Read verse 5.
And he ran unto Eli and said, Here am I, for thou callest me. And he said, I called not, lie down again. And he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again, Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called not, my son, lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither was the word of the Lord yet revealed unto him.
So he's still a child and he didn't know the Lord yet. And it says that the word wasn't revealed to him yet. So let's see, continue.
The Lord called Samuel again the third time. And he arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that the Lord had called the child.
Once again, it reminds us that Samuel is just a child. So go ahead.
Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood, and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of every one that heareth shall tingle.
Come on, so we're still talking to young Samuel here and telling him what he's going to do. Continue.
In that day I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end. Verse 13, for I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth.
So he's telling Samuel that Eli's house will be judged because the iniquity which that he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile and he restrained them not. So it says that his house will be judged for that. He's telling Samuel this. Go ahead, continue 14.
And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli, that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice, nor offering forever.
It says forever. So no sacrifice or offering will purge the iniquity forever. And continue 15.
Verse 15. And Samuel lay until the morning and opened the door of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to shew Eli the vision.
So he was, scared to tell Eli, what the Lord had just said about his house. And this is still, a child. So continue. 16.
16. And Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, Here am I. And he said, What is the thing that the Lord hath said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it, not from me. God, do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me of all the things that he said unto thee.
He's telling young Samuel, to let me know what the Most High told you. And it said that young Samuel was scared. He was fearful to, let me see, get the exact word. Young Samuel feared to show Eli the vision, but Eli's, asking him, and he's over Samuel. So, Samuel has to tell him. So what does it say right here? 18.
18. And Samuel told him every whit, and hid nothing from him.
Samuel told him everything that the Most High said. And continue.
And he said, It is the Lord, let him do what seemeth him good.
So his reply to that was, this is the Most High, and he has a righteous judgment. So let him do what seemeth him good. He's the creator of all. There's nothing, there's nothing that could be said against that. Continue, 19.
Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. Verse 20, and all Israel.
So now this is an older Samuel. Go ahead. Let's get these last two verses.
And all Israel from Dan, even to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again in Shiloh. For the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of the Lord.
So it said that everybody knew Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. And his mom made that vow from, before he was even born. So Samuel lived his life under that vow. It said that she would give his life for the Lord. And it also said that a razor would never come to his head. So if you come, we just say Tawadah, East.
Shalom family, don't leave yet. The captain in the little line is bringing it out. Stay tuned.
Shalom family. It's me, Captain Yaslan, and I got the young lion, my Bon Enoch. Today we're gonna go over an account of a young lion. We're gonna see the trials and tribulations that this particular individual went through, and how God allowed him to still remain blessed, even though he was going through these trials and tribulations, and he may have not understood why he was going through what he was going through, but the Most High had actually given him dreams of things to come, and it was it was ordained, or it was destined for him to have to go through these things so that he could be a blessing to his family, even though they betrayed him. And so some of you may have been able to determine what particular person I'm talking about, and that person is Joseph. So we're going to look at this young lion, Joseph, and I was unaware of his age until I read, and I was like, oh wow, he was going through all of these things at a very young age. So let's I'm gonna share my screen. All right, young lion Enoch, let's get the GNT, Genesis chapter 37.
Genesis chapter 37, verse 1. Jacob continued to live in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived. And this is the story of Jacob's family. Joseph, a young man of 17, took care of the sheep and goats with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's
concubines.
He brought bad reports to his father about what his brothers were doing.
So how old was Joseph?
17.
17 years old. Joseph was 17 at this time. It says he was a young man. A young man. Not yet a grown man, right? He was old enough to make decisions. His father entrusted him with certain tasks, but there was still, at this age, there's still a lot for Joseph to learn. He's only been through so much in 17 years. Doesn't quite have a lot of experience as someone, say, 30 years old would have. So we see here, Joseph is a young lion. He's a young man, 17 years old. You might, well, he's kind of older. No, 17. If you look, we would send our men to war at the age of 20. So he wasn't even technically old enough to go to war yet. This is later on. Obviously, Joseph comes before all of this takes place during Moses' time. But we see that Joseph brings a bad report of his brothers to his father. So he comes to Jacob and he tells him, hey, look, I see my brothers doing this and doing that against what you had told them to do. or they're not doing it properly. So he's bringing this report to his father. This was a task that was given to him. Right? That's why he's reporting back. Verse 3.
Genesis chapter 37, verse 3. Jacob loved Joseph more than all his other sons because he had been born to him when he was old. He made a long robe with full sleeves for him.
Okay, so we're in the GNT. If you go read the KJV, right here it says a long robe with full sleeves for him. But in the KJV, this is where you get the coat of many colors. For some reason, it doesn't talk about the many colors. But yeah, if you go to the KJV, this is where he's given a special coat of many colors from his father Jacob. And Jacob loved Joseph more than all the other sons because he was born to him when he was old. So as a father starts to get older, he may start to get a little bit more relaxed. He has more experience with his children. And he knows, as I'm getting older, hey, Joseph could be my last child. Joseph could be my last child. I want to nurture this because this might be my last one. I love Joseph the more. My other sons, I love them and I take care of them and I give them tasks and I take care of them and they're great workers. But Joseph, I'm going to cherish this one because he could be my last one. He's my young lion. I'm going to take care of him. Read verse 4. You can just say verse 4.
Verse 4. When his brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than he loved them, they hated their brother so much that they would not speak to him in a friendly manner.
So his brothers, Joseph's brothers, knew they were able to identify that their father loved him more than them. That doesn't mean that Jacob didn't love his children. It's just they could tell that he gets the special treatment. They were able to identify that Joseph gets special treatment over them. He got a coat of many colors, right? And Judah could have sat back and said, "Hey, I didn't get a coat of many colors growing up. I didn't have anything. I didn't get a special gift like that." So now they're feeling jealous, envious, coveting. That's why they hated their brother so much that they could not even speak to him in a friendly manner. They didn't even want to talk with their brother. And mind you, all of Joseph's brothers were older than him, except for Benjamin, but that comes later. Benjamin comes later. But Joseph is the youngest right now. All of his brothers are older, and they're looking down on their younger brother, and they have hate for him. So Joseph wants nothing to do but love his brothers, look up to them, follow in their footsteps, learn from them. This young lion trying to be somebody, and he's getting hated on by the ones that are supposed to watch over him and protect him and take care of him. So he's going through trials and tribulations in his own household. And you got to think, he may not know how to deal with this. He may not know how to cope with this. And if you're watching this, you may go through some similar situations in your life where maybe you're favorited somewhere, maybe at school you're favorited, and the teacher always calls on you because you got the answer, and then all the other kids are like, "Oh, you're a nerd because you know all the answers." That's great. That's a good thing you know all the answers. They're just jealous. They're covetous. They talk bad about you because they want what you have. And in that case, you have knowledge. Joseph here, he had the most love from his from all their father loved him the most. So they wanted that. They wanted what Joseph had. Verse 5.
Verse 5. One time Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him even more.
So Joseph had a gift. He had a talent. He had an ability. Joseph had a dream. He told his brothers about it, and they hated him even more. It just added to their hatred. He wanted to share his experience with his brothers and get their understanding on it. What do you guys think about this? I had this dream last night. Can you guys maybe be able to interpret it for me, or what do you think it means? Oh, we hate you. That's what it means. We don't care about your dreams. We don't want to hear it. Verse 6.
Verse 6. He said, "Listen to the dream I had."
Keep going.
Verse 7. We were all in the field tying up sheaves of wheat. When my sheaf got up and stood up straight, yours formed a circle around mine and bowed down to it.
Right. So he's telling them the dream that he had. He's saying we were all in the field tying up sheaves of wheat. Those are bundles of wheat. When my sheaf, my bundle, got up and stood up straight, your bundles formed a circle around mine and bowed down to it. This is prophecy in his dream, because this was what is going to take place later on. We're not going to go that deep, but this is when Joseph gets put into rulership with the Pharaoh, and his brothers come and they actually have to bow down to him because now he's in rulership and he's able to bless them. So this was given to Joseph from the Most High, but Joseph wasn't able to understand it. His brothers weren't able to understand it. His mom and dad weren't able to understand it. So take that into consideration if you ever have dreams and you're not able to interpret them, or you don't you can't you don't know what it means. Think there's a lot of significant meaning behind dreams. So try and remember them, and if you have someone that you're able to talk to about it, and see if you can try and decipher some information out of that. Or maybe when it comes to be, you'll remember back on it and be like, oh wow, that was what that dream was all about. Go ahead in verse 8.
Verse 8. Do you think you are going to be a king and rule over us? His brothers asked. So they hated him even more because of his dreams and because of what he said about them.
So they kind of understood the dream to a certain degree. They just knew that the dream meant Joseph was going to be a ruler, and they were going to have to bow down to their younger brother, and they were not going to have that. They hated him even more because of the gifts and talents and the favor that was on Joseph. They were envious and covetous of all of this that was on him, and they didn't like what their younger brother was telling them. Go ahead in verse 9.
Verse 9. Then Joseph had another dream and told his brothers, I had another dream in which I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me.
Right, so the the 11 stars are representing his brothers, right? And then he would be the 12th. There's 12 tribes of Israel, right? So that, again, just another depiction of them having to bow down to him. Go ahead to verse 10.
Verse 10. He also told the dream to his father, and his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? Do you think that your mother, your brothers, and I are going to come and bow down to you?
Right, so the sun must be symbolic of his father, and the moon must be symbolic of his mother, and the 11 stars would be the brothers. That's why Jacob says, what kind of dream is that? Do you think your mom, your brothers, and me are going to bow down to you? You're the youngest. Why would we bow down to you? You should be bowing down to us. We're older, we're more experienced, we're more wise. But Joseph was humble, he was meek, and he was not trying to boast or show off. It was just he was trying to understand what was going on in his life, and he was just talking about it. But sometimes even just talking about your blessings can rub someone the wrong way, because they might have an evil eye and be like, why don't I have blessings like you do? That's where covetousness comes into play, envy, malice, which is hatred in your heart. Go ahead and read 10. Oh, sorry, 11.
11. Joseph's brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept thinking about the whole matter.
So his brothers are jealous of him. His father kept this in his mind. Just kept it in the back of his mind. Kept thinking about the whole matter. What could this mean? Because Jacob couldn't understand it. It was prophecy. It was going to be fulfilled in the future. It was not something that had already passed. So he couldn't understand it, but he kept it in his mind. His brothers wanted nothing to do with it. Go ahead to verse 12.
Joseph sold by his brothers. Verse 12. One day, when Joseph's brothers had gone to Shechem to take care of their father's flock.
13.
Jacob said to Joseph, I want you to go to Shechem, where your brothers are taking care of the flock. Joseph answered, I am ready.
Right, so we can see here that all the brothers went out to take care of the flock. That was their job. Joseph remained behind with Jacob. Now, Jacob gives his youngest son a task, says, hey, look, I want you to go with your brothers and help them take care of the flock. I want you to learn from them. I think it's about that time for you to go ahead and learn from them. And that's why Joseph said, hey, I'm ready to go. Whatever you need me to do, Pops. I'm a young lion ready to prove myself. So he took on this task of going to go find his brothers in Shechem, and he gets sent on his way. Verse 14.
Verse 14. His father told him, go and see if your brothers are safe and if the flock is all right. Then come back and tell me. So his father sent him on his way from Hebron Valley. Joseph arrived at Shechem.
Keep going.
15. And was wandering around in the country when a man saw him and asked him, what are you looking for?
So we can see that Joseph's task from his father was go see if your brothers are safe, if the flock is okay, then come back and tell me. He's giving him small tasks. Young lions, take on tasks that you're capable of doing and do it well. You might not be able to do 4-hour live breakdowns on chapters and pulling precepts, and you might not be ready for that, right? We understand. But for a young lion, there's tasks that you can do, right? Take this, for example, Joseph, young lion, young man, 17 years old. Hey, go see if your brother's okay. Go see if the flock's okay. Come back and tell me. Give me a report. Is what you see good or is what you see bad? Tell me honestly what's going on. I'm giving you a task. Do it well. Okay, so a man sees Joseph, says, "What are you looking for?" Verse 16.
16. I am looking for my brothers who are taking care of their flock. He answered, can you tell me where they are?
17.
17. The man said, they have already left. I heard them say that they were going to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan.
18.
18. They saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted against him and decided to kill him. They said to one another, here comes that dreamer.
Pause there. So as they see their brother coming up, instead of being happy and excited, oh, look, it's our brother. He traveled all the way over here to Dothan, even though we were supposed to be in Shechem, but he traveled all the way to see us. Let's give him a hug and let's, be glad that he made it safely. No, instead, as he's on his way, they're plotting against him to kill him. Imagine you're the youngest brother, and you got a bunch of brothers, and as you're coming up, all your brothers are plotting to kill you. You're the smallest, you're the youngest, you're the least experienced. You're a young lion trying to make it. And everyone around you, I wouldn't say everyone, because Jacob, of course, loved them. His mom loved them. But your brothers that are around you, they want to see you fail. They want to see you die. They want to see you dead. That's a tough environment to be around when you're inexperienced. When these are the people that you're thinking are supposed to love you and take care of you and help you grow. Go ahead, verse 20.
What's in 19?
You already said, here comes that dreamer.
Verse 20. Come on now, let's kill him and throw his body into one of the dry wells. We can say that a wild animal killed him. Then we will see what becomes of his dreams.
21.
21. Reuben heard them and tried to save Joseph. Let's not kill him, he said.
So we can see here that they're still upset because of his dreams, because of a gift that God gave him, an ability and a talent. His brothers have malice and have an evil eye towards him, but Reuben had a little bit of mercy. When he heard these things, he tried to save his brother. He said, let's not kill him. All right, let's spare his life at least. Let's not go that far. Now, I understand you guys want to kill him, but let's have a little bit of mercy on him, right? What is he going to do? Read verse 22.
Just throw him into this well in the wilderness, but don't hurt him. he said, this planning to save him from them and send him back to his father.
So let's not kill him. Let's have a little bit of mercy on him. We're just going to throw him into this well in the wilderness and leave him to die. I mean, I guess Reuben felt better. At least the blood's not technically on their hands, literally. But spiritually, it's still on their hands if he would have died out there in the wilderness. But they end up let's see what happens. So that was Reuben's idea, was, you know what, let's not kill him, let's leave him here. But he did plan to save him from the well and send him back to his father. But imagine this plan went through and he actually did send him back to his father. He's still around his brothers that want him dead. He's still in a toxic environment. 23.
23. When Joseph came up to his brothers, they ripped off his long robe with full sleeves. 24. Then they took him and threw him into the well, which was dry.
So they tore the gift that their father gave Joseph. They tore off his coat of many colors, right? Took the gift right from him. Something that I'm sure Joseph cared a lot about, that gift that his father gave him. And they took him and they threw him in the well, which was dry. It was a dry well. They didn't leave him in water. Verse 25.
25. While they were eating, they suddenly saw a group of Ishmaelites traveling from Gilead to Egypt. Their camels were loaded with spices and resins. 26. Judah said to his brothers, what will we gain by killing our brother and covering up the murder? 27. Let's sell him to these Ishmaelites. Then we won't have to hurt him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. His brother agreed.
Agreed.
And when some Midianite traders came by, the brothers pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt.
So Judah came up with this plan. You know what? Instead of killing our brother and covering up the murder, that's not going to profit us anything. If we do that, we don't gain anything by that. But if we sell him to the Ishmaelites, we don't have to hurt him. You know, he is our brother, our flesh and blood. We shouldn't hurt him, but you know what? Let's just sell him to these Ishmaelites. His brothers agreed, and when the traders came by, they pulled Joseph out of the well and sold him for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites. And they took him to Egypt. So imagine that. You're a young lion, you're 17, your older brothers, they want you dead. They end up casting you into a well. You're sitting there, you're thinking about, okay, what's going to happen next? They want me dead. Are they going to kill me? Are they going to leave me here? What's going to happen? And then they pull you out and you're like, oh, you guys forgave me? No, we're selling you off to these Ishmaelites and they're going to take you to Egypt and we're going to get 20 pieces of silver. We profited off of you, you know, even though you're our brother, but so long, we may never see you again. It's insane to think that all of them would be okay with this. Obviously, except for Reuben. And we're going to see how Reuben reacts. Verse 29.
When Reuben came back to the well and found that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes in sorrow.
30.
30. He returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is not there. What am I going to do?"
So Reuben had some remorse. Reuben had some sorrow. Reuben had some love for Joseph. He tore his clothes in sorrow, and he returned to his brothers when he seen that Joseph wasn't in the well, and he said, "What am I gonna do? What like?" Because he's taking on the responsibility on himself. Like, I have to tell Jacob, I have to tell our father what happened to Joseph. What happened to him? Where did he go? Where is he? He has to give a report on Joseph's life. So he's stressing out about this. And not just that, but also that Joseph's gone. He wanted to send Joseph home with Jacob, but now he's not able to do so. And so he's asking his brothers what took place. He wasn't aware of this of Joseph being sold to the Ishmaelites. Verse 31.
Then they killed a goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. 32. They took the robe to their father and said, "We found this. Does it belong to your son?" 33. He recognized it and said, "Yes, it is him." Yes, it is.
It is his. Yes, it is his.
Yes, it is his. Some wild animals have killed him. My son Joseph has been torn to pieces.
So notice the wording there in 32. They took the robe to their father after they killed the goat, put the blood on it to make it seem like it was Joseph's blood, and said, "We found this. Does it belong to your son? Not does it belong to our brother? Does it belong to your son?" Do you see the wording there? They didn't even love Joseph as a brother. They didn't even want to call him their brother. They went to their father and said, "Does this belong to your son?" Like he wasn't, like Joseph wasn't even a part of being their brother at all. Like, they weren't born from the same father. And Jacob recognizes it, says yes, and thinks that Joseph has been killed by a wild animal. Verse 34.
34. Jacob tore his clothes in sorrow and put on sackcloth. He mourned for his son a long time.
35.
35. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said,
Be what?
Comforted. And said, "I will go down to the world of the dead, still mourning for my son." So he continued to mourn for his son Joseph.
Right, so he said, this sorrow, this hurt, this pain is never gonna go away. I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna die and still be mourning for my son. So Jacob mourned for Joseph all his days. He continued to mourn for his son Joseph. Verse 36.
Meanwhile, in Egypt, the Midianites had sold Joseph to Potiphar, one of the king's officers, who was the captain of the palace guard.
All right, so while all this is taking place and Jacob thinks Joseph's dead. Young lion Joseph is traveling with the Ishmaelites to Egypt. Imagine this. You're a youth, you're a young youth, a young man, and all you wanted to do was go do what your father told you to do, be obedient, perform the task that was given to you, go and check on your brothers, check on the flock, make sure everything's okay, and come back and give your father a report on what you observed. And in doing so, in honoring your father and mother, right? Or in this case, well, it was the father's task. In honoring your father, Jacob, and performing the task that he asked you to do, you end up almost getting killed. Then you get thrown in a well. Then you get sold to Ishmaelites. Then you get transported to Egypt. Then you're sold again to an Egyptian officer. Now you're serving this Egyptian officer. Look at how far that look like all the things that you have to put yourself in Joseph's shoes and realize that there was so much going on in his mind at this time. It was so much to process in such a short amount of time. We're going to go to Genesis 39, and we're just going to grab a couple verses. Let's see how we get to 39. Just going to get a couple verses. Go ahead and start from 1.
Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Genesis 39, verse 1. Now the Ishmaelites had taken Joseph to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, one of the king's officers, who was the captain of the palace guard. Verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph and made him successful. He lived in the house of Egyptian master. Verse 3. Who saw that the Lord was with Joseph and had made him successful in everything he did.
So even through all these trials and tribulations that I just explained, all this crazy turn of events, unfortunate events that were happening to Joseph back to back to back, and he's like, I didn't have no hate in my heart. I was just doing what my pops told me to do. I'm just doing what Jacob told me to do. Here I am trying to perform my duties. And look where I'm at now. I'm here getting sold to the Egyptians. I'm in the home of Potiphar. But look at this. Keep this in mind if you can relate to this situation that Joseph's in. You see in your life, you have a lot of blessings upon you, but everyone around you might hate you for it. You might catch backlash for you wearing your fringes, for you keeping the Sabbath, for the dietary law, right? You're like, no, I don't eat pork. I can't consume that. And they're like, oh, you're weird. Why don't you? Right? So you might catch backlash and hate from all different types of ways and all different types of directions. But if you stay diligent, if you fear the Lord, keep the commandments, faith in Christ, like Joseph, right? The Lord was with Joseph. The Lord will be with you, right? And made him successful. So no matter, even though he went through all that stuff, the Lord was with Joseph. You might be going through trials and tribulations and think, well, the Lord's not with me. You think that might have not crossed Joseph's mind when all this, Joseph's just sitting there like, I don't understand. Why is this all happening? Why is this happening to me? I I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm getting persecuted left and right. I've done no wrong. But the Lord is setting all this into motion for a reason. And that's for, like we've seen in his dreams, he's going to end up being able to bless his family later on. So through it all, the Lord was with Joseph and made him successful. And he lived in the house of his Egyptian master, Potiphar, and so Potiphar saw that the Lord was with Joseph and had made him successful in everything he did. That's the blessings, right? In Deuteronomy 28, the blessings, right? Everything that you set your hand to, you're going to be successful at. And that was what was on Joseph. And that's why his brothers hated him too, because they could identify that Joseph had a lot of favor, a lot of success. And you can even see the other nations, right? The Egyptian here, Potiphar, was able to identify that everything Joseph did, he had great success in whatever he did. Everything he did, it prospered. He brought forth good fruits. And it was acknowledged by those around him. Now, Potiphar could have hated on him for it, but no. Watch. Read verse 4.
Verse 4. Potiphar was pleased with him and made him his personal servant, so he put him in charge of his house and everything he owned.
So instead of Potiphar being like his brothers, no, he was like, no, I acknowledge that you're successful in everything that you do. You know what? You're going to be my personal servant. I know it might not sound like the best thing, but it's better than doing the grunt work. He's like, yeah, you're elevated. You're my personal servant. You're not my servant's servant. You're my personal servant. So this was a promotion for Joseph. He got treated better than the rest of the servants because he was Potiphar's right-hand man. And he put him in charge of his house and everything he owned. Watch over all my stuff. When I'm out doing my officer work, you're in charge of my household. I need somebody to take care of it while I'm gone. And I entrust you to do so. Oh, in verse, I think we're going to finish on verse 5. Verse 5 is going to be our last one.
Verse 5, the last one. From then on, because of Joseph, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian and everything that he had in his house and in his fields.
So because of Joseph, the Egyptian received blessings. That Egyptian, Potiphar's whole household was blessed because he had Joseph in his possession, in his household. So his house and his fields were blessed because of Joseph. That's a very powerful thing to understand. And so even when you're going through your trials and tribulations, realize that wherever you're at, you're a blessing to that place. You could be in prison, but you're a blessing to that prison because you walk with integrity, because you walk with the Most High, because you walk with Christ, because you preach this word, because you know the truth. You will bring blessings around you, but also keep in mind, especially as a young lion, you may not be able to fully understand, just like it doesn't seem that Joseph was fully being able to understand what was taking place around him. When you are blessed, remember that's light. and light is separated from darkness. So the darkness wants nothing to do with the light. His brethren were in darkness. They had hatred in their heart for their brother Joseph, because he was shining his light, because they could see the blessings on him. And they didn't like that. They were envious, they were covetous, and they had malice in their hearts. So just take this into consideration if you're going through similar situations like this. People may hate on you because you're blessed, because you prosper, because everything around you is going good. And they don't like that because they're not happy with themselves. So this was a young lion lesson. We got Joseph, a very powerful and great story. I recommend you to continue reading on. If you already don't know the entire story, you'll be able to see how he later on, you'll understand the dreams if you keep reading on, and you'll see how he's able to bless his brothers. Even though they did him wrong, he was still able to remain humble, remain meek, and bless those who persecuted him. That's what he did. He blessed those who persecuted him. And it took a lot of courage and discipline and love. It took a lot of love for him to be able to say, you know what? I forgive you for the wrong that you did me. And you know what? Come here and receive this blessing from me. And shame came upon them. Shame came upon his brothers, upon his brethren. And so, just let your light shine. Let your light shine. You got anything to say? No? You like that story?
Yeah.
So I hope you learned something, young lion.
Yep, I did. I learned about Joseph's hard life, getting enslaved a lot and getting punished by his brothers.
Yeah, but you can get persecuted even when you've done nothing wrong. Christ didn't do anything wrong, and he was persecuted. He was blameless. So that's just what this walk comes with, is persecutions, even when you've done nothing wrong. And you may not be able to understand it at first, but we can see examples like this, like Joseph, like Christ, and see, okay, I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to realize that these things just have to take place. It's the Most High's will that these things take place. Let me take it with joy and let me learn from the situation. So I hope you all enjoyed this young lion lesson. Until next time, Shalom, family.
Shalom.